So, coming back to camp, my creek's twice the size as what it was. Not the end of the world, but it's right on the verge of, do I take my pants and boots off, or do I just try to make it and hope I don't go over my boots? I mean, I can always build a fire. It's not the end of the world, but I'm gonna brave it with my boots on. Well, that was unpleasant. But I got it. This is my belt. I took it off, tied my boots together, put those over my shoulder. You can see it got wet up to here, which that's a bit over boot depth. Yeah, it's hard to see it. I got books and stuff in here. I mean, I can't get my books wet. So, and I brought my spear into camp. I'm pretty stoked about having my spear with me finally. But, whew, that water's cold. Yeah, made it. Wonderful news. Hiking around. The first nettle of the season. And then next to it is one of my favorite edibles. It's Siberian miner's lettuce. It's a really tasty one. So I'm happy to see that there's more of it. This is the nettles stock from last year. You see a bit of it out here, so I know in a month or so this will be a really good place to harvest. We got coal in the ground again. I'm just trying to find a way across this dang creek without doing what I had to do last night. I realized that I need to create a zip line or wire rope bridge across this water. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm setting up, I'm about 4 feet above the water level. The water level has gone down, so I won't have a whole lot of issue crossing right now. But I'll show you what I'm up to. So up here, I got a wire wrapped around the tree. Down here, I got a rope wrapped around the tree. They're all coiled up in a very strategic way with my pulleys as a counterweight. And I don't know which pulley I'm going to use, so I'm chucking them both over. I'm using, you can hardly see it, but it's a dark tree on the other side. And I'll be darn lucky to be able to chuck this all the way across the water without it getting tangled up. But I'm gonna give it a try. This creek doubled in size on me, and it's only February, beginning of February. We're getting a lot worse weather. Eventually, I'm gonna have to battle this during springtime floods. You know, I'm pretty high up altitude. When the snow melts from the rain in the spring, this creek just gets huge. So I'm roughly 4 or 5 feet above the water right now, and hopefully that's enough to make it back and forth. Now this is probably going to be a big trial and error kind of thing, but I'm going to pause this, try to find a place to hang it up. Okay. We got cleared enough room. And it didn't make it. I'm not surprised. Yeah, it didn't make it, but it's getting dark, so tomorrow morning I'm gonna come through here and set it up right. As I said, this is not a bad creek to cross right now. I should be able to do it without any issues. But right now, the name of the game is get back to camp and start some food. It might snow tonight. I hope it does. There's a lot of cool things to learn when there's a blanket of white on the ground. Tracking animals is going to be fun. Good morning. It is snowing. We have a little bit of snow out there. It didn't show up here because we're under cover. We're under the canopy. But this is what I did last night to make a fire easier for today. And I suffocated it to keep some coals. And this is now perfectly dry. It should catch really quick. So I have a nice warm fire in no time. I gotta go make that zip line thingy or wire bridge. And it's snowing, so I better bring a fire with me, which could be fun. I think I'll use this thing as a mobile fire pit so I don't die from freezing to death. But I love the snow. This morning for breakfast, I'm making mud apples. I warmed up some water, and then you put some dirt in there, and then you roll your apples in it, coat it real thick, and throw it in the fire. I had just read about mud apples not long ago, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like a nice warm treat to have. Can't get the coating on there very thick. It's just not the right texture of mud, so we'll do what we can. Read about a way to process wild birds where you just take the guts out. Or actually, I read there's an African technique where you roll them, just kill the bird, guts and all, don't process it at all. You roll it in clay, make a big clay ball out of the bird, throw it in the fire, and then by peeling the clay off after it's all dried and such, takes all the feathers with it, which makes a lot of sense, but I think I would prefer to gut the bird first. A mud apple, it's not entirely done to what I was hoping, and I've left the other one in the fire for longer, but I'm just want to eat a warm apple. It's not, I was expecting like a mushed, something I could just eat with a spoon. But cinnamon is the spice of the day. It's going into my pine needle tea. Just cinnamon and pine needle is delicious. a little bit more about this tea is I collected I recently learned about full moon water. It's just water that's been energized by the full moon. And you research it and it's all metaphysical. There's no like definitive properties that it has. But I thought it was interesting because I collected this rainwater on the night of the full moon. And so it was way up there, getting charged by the full moon. It came down, harvested it. So I got full moon energy charged pine needle and cinnamon tea with a mud apple. It's really good. And it didn't cook all the way through, but it's warm all the way through. My other apple, I had to rebuild my fire a little bit. My other apple's still cooking. So it may seem I'm procrastinating, which I kind of am, but I wanted to touch on what makes me successful out here is not that my skill set's really above everyone else's. I do know a bit, but it's my attitude. It's doing the finer, smaller things that makes this enjoyable. One of my favorite sayings is attitude is the difference between ordeal and adventure. And I thoroughly enjoy this, not because it can be miserable, but when you find beauty in every moment, it makes everything so worth it. Yes, I'm cold, and I will be cold for a long time, but you don't get to see this kind of beauty without the sacrifice. Discomfort is the price of admission for a meaningful life. Most of the snow melted. Kind of a bummer. So, in order to tension this line, this wire, I'm going to create a knot called the prusik. It starts by making loops. And I'm going to have redundancy in this. I'm going to have 2 of these, because these are paracord, should have about 550 pound test. But I like to have way more weight, way more rating than what I actually need. And since I'm tightening this by hand, I'm going to make a 2-to-1. Use a little teeny carabiner for like a pulley. Let me just show you. Look. That thing That thing's just a bungee, or like a tie down. It's a bendy tie down. But I can attach my phone to any tree. I can turn it into legs for my phone. It's extremely versatile, and it's just a wonderful camera stand. Got 2 Prusiks, 550 cord, so it should, when it's doubled up, it should be well, way more than enough to pull. Actually, I think I need to both back a little bit. So it took me 10 minutes or so to remember how to tie a bowline. But the beauty of this knot is that it retains the rope's integrity, meaning it doesn't weaken the rope, and no matter how tight you pull it, it doesn't loosen up. So we're gonna no matter how tight you pull it, it is always untieable, is what I was trying to say. So I'm buttoning it through that. Button it through that. Button it through that. And now for every foot I pull it, it goes 1/4 of a foot. So this is a 3-to-1 system. Meaning I pull it taunt, only pulling, if I can pull 100 pounds on this, that means the whole system's pulling at 300 pounds of tension. So, I don't know how I'm going to do this. When these lines get twisted, they rub on each other, it can cause problems. I'm also noticing that I'm too close. Okay, so the beauty of these knots is that I can pull them back. But then this needs to be rethought. I got this going to here. That's what needs to happen, is that this knot, this loop needs to be untwisted. And again, I'm seeing a problem. My line's too low. So this is trial and error. This is to be expected. Now I got the system high enough. Catastrophic failure. So I made it over, and then on my way back, I put too much pressure on that wire, and it snapped at where the, well, I don't know exactly where it snapped, but obviously the paracord snapped. 550-pound test my butt. So now I'm soaked. I landed right in the middle of the river, creek. Thankfully my phone's fine. Waterproof pants, zipped up pocket. Almost lost my hat. But I got to. I think I gotta get changed before I get in trouble. Boy, howdy. Well, I know what to do different. I think I know how and why it failed. The Prusik knots, one of the two snapped, but it should still have. The other one should be holding me in place, but I'm looking and it snapped. The two lines that were attached to my two Prusik knots to the tree, they both got snapped, and it wasn't the sheer weight of it, it was the abrasiveness. You can cut paracord with paracord, and that's exactly what I did. It must have just fidgeted just enough under tension that it snapped. It cut through it. Redundancy is the word of the day. So I got soaked and fell on my elbow. It's alright though. I can move it. I can't feel it very much, so I don't know if it's gonna hurt or ache for any amount of time or not. But I couldn't, my lighter was wet. The lighter that was in my pocket. But thankfully I got a pack of 5. It was unopened, untouched. The redundancy in that. And it's important. Well, I got all the extra clothes that I need. Double set of cold weather clothes. So I won't have to worry about. Eventually here I'm going to change my clothes, but I just wanted to take a moment. If I was seriously in trouble, I would not be filming it. That, saving it for a special occasion. Some baked beans, getting something hot in your system after getting chilled. It is 33 degrees out and sprinkling. So these are like the worst. pretty unfavorable conditions for what had just happened. But this next week, it's supposed to get cold. Like, this ain't cold yet. And if this happened when it was 20 degrees, I would have been in trouble. I would have been in big trouble. Always, what I didn't have ready is all the material for a fire. I should be able to just whip it up. But no, I had to go and gather sapwood and chop some wood. And I should have everything ready for immediate fire. But this helps. This is all sap. So, and this is not a time to be frugal. Wait, it's frugal. Not a time to be shy. It's a time to use all the resources you can, all the resources you have to get the job done. So, I'm gonna get changed. Hey, so I hiked in a ways, just kind of scouting things, and I was getting cold, so I had to start moving. Just a huge amount of alder trees down, which will give me oyster mushrooms. This whole area is going to be excellent for oyster mushroom picking. That should be an all summer long adventure. Summer long food source. More than just creating oyster mushrooms. Alder's an excellent wood to smoke on. It's good for building. And this creek looks like it just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm gonna follow this down to the where it runs into the bigger creek. That'll be my way home. Well, I found this beautiful cedar grove. It's just gorgeous. But what I wanted to point out, one of the benefits of cedar, is that if you need to make a fire in the rain, they're your best friends. They stay dry. They're incredible umbrellas. And there's a high resin content in their bark. It's a relatively little amount of resin in the tree itself, but like all this lichen, it's just feathery stuff. It's just very fine stuff. And there's a lot of it. Right here alone would be enough. If I just had flint, which I do, not on me, but this little feathery stuff is all perfectly dry, along with the lichen that's on it. You make an excellent fire starter. And they oftentimes have little caverns that you can find dry wood in. Up under here, there's bound to be a chunk of dry wood or two. And across the way, under there, is all overhanging. So if you wanted to, if I had to, I'd peel, look, there's some dead. A lot of dead stuff up in there. I can almost get this free, but it takes some work. But just this cedar tree alone, I can start a fire. I love this tree. All cedars are just amazing. I'm getting ready to leave camp for a couple of days. I always stay 5 days, leave for 2 days. Spend time with my family. Summertime will be different. I'll be able to go 24/7. Then they can come and see me out here. So, I got fire starter prepared. I'm not going to be caught with my pants down again. Should be able to just light a match and have a killer fire. But part of it is what I'm going to do to the fire now. I'm going to suffocate it, but in a strategic way, using my big pot. So watch and learn. It's going to do two things. It's going to, well, suffocate it. When coals will just stay coals, but equally as important, it's going to all stay dry. So, between what I did there and my little fire starter setup, I'll be able to come back here in 2 days and strike a match. I'll have a nice hot fire. See you next week.